hello and welcome back. I had no idea what to cover for Halloween, but when I saw this movie on my shelf, I couldn't help but select it for the Halloween special. 2007's Trick or Treat, directed by Michael Dougherty, is the perfect flick for spooky season. The entire movie and the character of Sam is based on Dougherty's short film Season's Greetings. Quinn Lord, who played both Sam and the little peeping Tom in the costume shop, said he had a blast in the role. For most of the movie, though, he couldn't see very well out of the mask. He remembers the crew making alterations to it so he could see slightly better. He loved shooting the movie because, even though it was winter during filming, to him it felt like Halloween 24/7. He enjoyed the costume, the atmosphere, and the role reversal of playing something creepy but still childlike. He admits that he still watches the movie at least once every year around Halloween. He said he would love to play Sam again, but now, being 25, he's too big for the character, though he would love to play a victim of Sam's if there were ever a sequel. There was also a 4-part comic book series created for the movie. There were major talks of a sequel in 2019, but it was ultimately shelved due to the COVID pandemic. Plans for a second movie have been passed back and forth every year since. It's currently labeled as an active development, but its release is still uncertain because Warner Bros. Is up for sale. Many projects have been left by the wayside while waiting for a buyer, and whether a second movie will be left behind or not remains to be seen. I have to reveal that I've done some re-editing. This movie jumps back and forth between the stories, which makes it hard to stay on topic. Just keep that in mind when you go to watch this movie for yourself, and I highly recommend that you do. I'll put links down in the description so you can rent or buy this awesome movie for yourself. As always, I'm going to recap the story and pause at certain points to share some behind-the-scenes trivia. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about 2007's Trick or Treat. Our story starts with Emma and her husband Henry as they return home after a Halloween party. While Henry is enthusiastic about the holiday, Emma expresses disdain, stating that she hates Halloween. Ignoring Henry's advice to leave the decorations up until morning, Emma begins dismantling the Halloween displays. As she extinguishes the jack-o'-lantern before midnight, she unknowingly breaks a sacred Halloween tradition. Henry wants to cap the night off with a literal bang, while Emma wants to be a stick in the mud. After some back and forth, she relents and says she'll meet him upstairs. Henry goes in the house as Emma continues to take down the decorations. While Henry watches an adult film upstairs, Emma is ambushed and attacked by an unseen mini-assailant and dragged towards the house. Henry goes outside to check on Emma and discovers her mutilated remains on display with the decorations, with a big pumpkin lollipop stuffed into her mouth. After the opening credits, we're taken back to earlier in the night and introduced to Stephen Wilkins, the local school principal. He catches a young boy, Charlie, vandalizing jack-o'-lanterns and stealing candy from his front porch. Charlie is about to lie to get out of it, but Wilkins tells him not to waste a good lie on such a dumb thing. Instead of reprimanding him harshly, Wilkins offers Charlie a candy bar and a lesson on respecting their town's Halloween traditions. He carves pumpkins and tells Charlie that he remembers doing the same kind of things when he was younger, smashing pumpkins, destroying Halloween decorations, stealing candy, until his dad set him straight. He did so by telling him that Halloween is about respecting the dead, because tonight, the dead and all sorts of other dangerous things roam free. He pulls the knife from the pumpkin, scaring Charlie. Wilkins continues, saying the traditions of dressing up, trick-or-treating, and handing out candies were meant to protect the people of their town, that everyone else does it because they did it first. But these days, nobody seems to care. Charlie begins to feel sick, and Wilkins says that there's one more important tradition. Always check your candy. Charlie then vomits chocolate and blood all over Wilkins' front stoop before collapsing into his lap. Wilkins looks around to make sure there are no witnesses before popping an untampered with piece of candy in his mouth. He drags Charlie into his house as the boy continues to puke on him. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. It's 3 kids there to trick or treat. Wilkins turns off the light and hopes they'll go away, but it only makes the kids pound harder. He answers the door covered in blood, and the kids scream, then begin laughing, saying Happy Halloween to Mr. Wilkins. He hands them untampered candies, and the young girl of the group asks if she can have his jack-o'-lantern for a scavenger hunt. He says, anything for a good cause. The middle child notices the trail of blood leading from the stoop into the house and all over Wilkins' shirt. Wilkins notices the look on the little boy's face and says Happy Halloween. The little boy turns to run away, revealing little Sam patiently waiting for his turn to get a piece of candy. But we'll find out the creepy truth about little Sam a little later. We see that Wilkins has a pre-dug hole in his backyard with bodies already inside. He goes to grab Charlie, but his son Billy yells from the second-story window that he's home from trick-or-treating, not wanting the whole neighborhood to hear or see what he's doing. He whispers up to his son to go and watch Charlie Brown, and that he'll be in just a minute. Billy says that Charlie Brown is an asshole, and Wilkins gets stern with him over the use of the word before Billy closes the window and goes back inside. Wilkins then continues to push the body into the hole. He scoops a shovel full of dirt into the hole, and the neighbor's dog begins barking at him. Wilkins uses a severed finger from one of his victims to lure the dog away, but not before being spotted by the neighbor, who asks why he's in a hole in his backyard. Wilkins uses the excuse that his septic tank is backing up. The whole time, one of the bodies in the bag is trying to move and yell out as Wilkins plays whack-a-mole with his foot. The old grouchy neighbor accepts Wilkins' explanation before heading back inside. Wilkins turns his attention back to the moving body bag and is about to whack it with a shovel before being interrupted again by his son Billy, asking for help with something. The two have a bit of back and forth before Billy goes back inside again, and Wilkins delivers a hard blow to the body bag. Wilkins is then shown watering a tree he planted over the mini mass grave. He mocks his son for continually interrupting him before going to walk back into his house. He sees his neighbor banging on the window, trying to get his attention and asking for help. Wilkins takes one look at his grouchy neighbor and whispers, "Screw off," before going into his house. We see a glimpse of something tackling the old man before we cut back to Wilkins calling out to his son. Billy then jump scares his dad from behind the counter. Billy takes off his mask, asking his dad if they can carve the jack-o'-lantern now. He gently takes his boy by the hand and says, "Let's go downstairs," before grabbing the knife from the kitchen counter. The whole time, Wilkins has the knife behind his back. We're meant to believe he's going to kill his son. But something even more disturbing is going on. Wilkins and his son aren't carving a pumpkin, they're carving Charlie's severed head, revealing that both Wilkins and his son are homicidal maniacs. The Principal Wilkins segment directly references many common Halloween fears, from tampered candy to strangers lurking in costume, and the stiff reminder that children should never be too trusting of adults, even those of authority. Dylan Baker plays Principal Wilkins in a way that makes him appear as though he's a good father and a caring member of the community most of the year, but for one night in October he becomes a homicidal psychopath. On the same note, Connor Christopher Levins, who plays Billy Wilkins, embodies the innocent child perfectly. He seems filled with Halloween wonder, even when it's shown that he's just as much of a little psychopath as his father. He doesn't flinch at the human jack-o'-lanterns, even saying this time he wants it to have a scary face, meaning that Billy also participates in his father's yearly murderous activities. I personally felt that this segment was strong and a perfect opener for what's to come. The gore is on point, and all the slightly comedic interruptions feels realistic. In TV shows like Dexter, there's always time for backstories and witty one-liners, but in real life, nothing ever goes 100% to plan. And this story shows that even in the most gruesome moments, there can be some bits of dark humor. Our tale shifts to the outskirts of town, where we catch up with the 3 kids from Wilkins' porch, Macy the Angel, Sarah the Alien, and Chip the Pirate. They knock on Miss Henderson's door, who answers completely drunk swatting them with her cattail and offering them booze before stumbling off for candy. Chip sneaks a peek inside, catching sight of the wild adult party going on. Macy tries to ask for one of her jack-o'-lanterns, but Miss Henderson doesn't hear her over the music. She sends the trio off with a slurred warning to watch out for monsters. The trio continues down the street, chatting about what they just witnessed, when Schrader rolls up with a shopping cart of pumpkins. He says someone's been smashing them all night, and Macy tells him they're almost set. Their next stop is Rhonda's house, her yard glowing with dozens of jack-o'-lanterns. The others call her an idiot savant, but she's clearly bright and creative, just socially awkward. Schrader politely chats with her, impressed that she carved all the pumpkins and made her own costume. The two share a small, shy connection. Meanwhile, during the town parade, Wilkins, now dressed in black, attacks a young woman. She runs into the crowd, covered in real blood, but Emma and Henry mistake her for a drunk partygoer in costume. Moments later, with a Batman-like flick of his cape, Wilkins finishes the job and slips back into the crowd unnoticed. Back with the kids, Rhonda walks beside Chip, explaining the origins of Halloween. When the veil between life and death is thinnest and sacrifices ensured a good harvest. Chip's unsettled, and Rhonda awkwardly changes the subject, complimenting his eye patch. They arrive at a foggy rock quarry where Macy announces they are here to pay respects to the dead. When Chip asks what she means, Macy explains that 30 years ago, on a late Halloween afternoon, a school bus was on its usual route. But it wasn't a typical bus, and it was not filled with typical kids. There were 8 of them, different, troubled, disturbed. Their parents were ashamed and sent them to a place far away from the town. But one day, the bus driver took a different route. He drove the bus to an abandoned quarry, plowing right through the locked gate. Macy continues, saying that over the years the parents had become bitter and exhausted, willing to do anything to ease the burden brought on by their troubled kids. One day, they approached the bus driver. The parents gathered their money and asked the driver to do something unheard of. He handed out pieces of candy, checking if the chains he had placed on the children were still locked tight. However, one of the kids broke free from his chains and climbed into the driver's seat. He started the engine but couldn't get the bus into gear, repeating over and over that he wanted to go home. The driver tried to get back to the front, but he tripped. The boy finally got it into gear and drove the bus off the edge, plunging into the murky waters of the quarry. The driver survived, but was never seen again. Some say the bus still rests below, with its passengers waiting for revenge. To honor them, or maybe tempt fate, Macy plans to take 8 pumpkins down to the bottom. Schrader operates an old freight elevator, and Macy, Sarah, and Schrader ride first, leaving Chip and Rhonda to follow. When it comes back up, Chip and Rhonda load the extra pumpkins and themselves onto the elevator. As they descend, they hear the others scream in terror from below. When the elevator stops, Rhonda tells Chip to stay put and to keep the jack-o'-lanterns lit, saying only that they will protect him. At the bottom, she finds the half-submerged bus and torn bits of her friends' costumes floating nearby. A rotted hand grabs her ankle, dead kids rising from the water. Rhonda screams and makes a mad dash back to Chip, but finds him being eaten by a murky ghoul. Rhonda stumbles backwards, falling into the dirty water and hitting her head, knocking herself out. She wakes to find one of the monsters reaching for her, but it's Schrader, who removes his mask and explains it was all a cruel prank. Seeing how shaken Rhonda is, Schrader tries to comfort her. He tells Macy to pack it up. At first, Macy refuses, but Schrader says that she's scared shitless and hurt, asking what more does she want. Macy leaves with Chip and Sarah. They begin to gather their stuff, but Macy kicks a still-lit jack-o'-lantern into the dark, swampy water. Suddenly, ghostly whispers begin closing in all around them. The ghouls emerge from the bus for real, and panic breaks out. The kids run for the elevator, but it's locked. Rhonda, safe inside with her glowing pumpkin, calmly steps away, looks down at her trapped friends, slowly waving goodbye to them as they scream in terror below. The sounds of ghouls ripping and tearing them apart echo off the canyon walls. And as she turns away, Sam watches her pass, disappearing into the night. The Quarry segment is one of the best parts of the entire movie. Behind the scenes, Michael Dougherty has said the story went through many notable rewrites before filming. The school bus segment originally existed in a completely different form. He eventually settled on the Quarry location and the twist we see in the finished film. This choice was made to avoid an overused "you're dead and don't know it" trope, and to make the mythology fit the rest of the movie's Halloween rules and tone. The visual imagery from this sequence, the floating mass, the lanterns, have become iconic pieces of the movie and are frequently referenced by fans when discussing why Trick or Treat has become a cult classic. One of the best subtle storytelling moments is revealed near the start of the segment. Rhonda is shown to have a vast knowledge and love of Halloween lore. She knows what Sam is, but because she hasn't broken any of his rules, she walks away. Sam appears to have been waiting at the top, because if Rhonda hadn't walked off the elevator alone, he was ready to punish any of the other four because they extinguished their jack-o'-lanterns early. But since the school bus schools got to them first, Sam simply walks away as well. Back at the costume shop, a group of college girls try on Halloween outfits, chatting through the stalls. A little boy peeks through the door until his mom catches him, scolding both him and the girls for their smutty banter. The girls step out together, revealing fairy tale costumes. Lori refuses until her sister Danielle teases her, threatening to huff and puff. Lori steps out, dresses Little Red Riding Hood, saying she feels like a little kid. While Danielle insists it's tradition, now all they need are dates. At the counter, Danielle flirts with the cashier, inviting him to a party in Sheep's Meadow. On their way out, she teases Lori for still being a virgin. Lori insists that she wants her first time to be special. Two friends split off to flirt with a pair of news crew guys, inviting them to the party. Danielle reassures Lori there will be plenty of options later, but Lori insists she'll find her own date. Before leaving, Danielle tells her to call if she gets into trouble. Lori wanders through the city's Halloween parade surrounded by couples. Frustrated, she sits alone on a bench. Danielle calls to say she found her a date, a man dressed like a giant baby. Lori rolls her eyes, saying, "So he's hideous." As they hang up, a cloaked figure, Wilkins, is watching her from a distance. Giving up on finding a date, Lori decides to just go to the party alone and heads into the woods. When she hears footsteps behind her, she turns, but no one is there. She turns around to continue down the path, but now Wilkins is standing in her way. At the party, Lori's sister is worried. Another girl tells her to relax, and that Lori is a big girl. Danielle says that she's unsure, saying that she's the runt of the litter, just like their mother used to say. Back in the woods, Wilkins whispers in Lori's ear before biting her neck. Suddenly, a body in a red cape crashes into the clearing, and Danielle rushes over, thinking it is Lori. But it's Wilkins, battered and terrified. Lori emerges from the shadows, unharmed. The twist: Lori, Danielle, and the others are werewolves. As they shed their skins and transform, Wilkins realizes too late who the real prey is. Lori sinks her teeth into his neck. Danielle howls at the moon, and Sam quietly watches, amused by the carnage. In this story, the film flips expectations. Dougherty wanted to riff on classic horror tropes with a Halloween anthology twist. He said the whole film explores what Halloween means at different phases of life. The story plays with the roles of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. Lori is dressed as the damsel in distress and Wilkins as the monster, only for the roles to be flipped at the last minute. Anna Paquin plays the role flawlessly, going from a sweet, innocent girl looking for a date to the predator, toying with her prey before sinking her teeth into Wilkins. Typically in these horror tales, it's college girls who need to be careful around predators disguised as sheep. In this story, however, the girls are the wolves gathering their sheep for a feast. The woods location is literally called Sheep's Meadow, reinforcing the theme. We return to earlier in the night. 3 kids knock on the dilapidated home of Mr. Krieg, Wilkins' cranky neighbor. When he answers, he releases his dog, Spike, with a mask to scare off the kids, steals their candy, and returns to burning photos by the fire. He hears footsteps outside, and when he checks the window, it's a kid with a slingshot. He storms out to discover his yard full of pumpkins, and he looks around for whoever did it, and hears footsteps upstairs. Arming himself with a shotgun, Krieg investigates. Something darts down the hallway, lights flicker, and a jack-o'-lantern bursts into flames, revealing walls scrawled with "Trick or Treat." Suddenly, from under the bed, Sam slashes Krieg's ankle with a razor blade, hidden in a candy bar. Krieg falls to the floor, screaming in pain. Little Sam crawls out from under the bed. Krieg grabs his double-barrel shotgun and fires, blowing apart the jack-o'-lantern, but missing little Sam. Krieg runs down the hallway in a panic. Sam slices his other leg, causing him to tumble down the stairs. As Krieg looks at his bleeding hands, he realizes Sam has scattered candy, broken glass, and razor blades all over the floor. Krieg fumbles with the lock on his back door, but the glass shards in his hands make it nearly impossible. He almost gets it open when Sam drops from the ceiling and attacks him. Despite Sam's small size, his strength is nearly too much for the old man. Krieg slams Sam into a mirror, then pounds on the window, begging Wilkins for help. But Wilkins just walks back inside his house, ignoring him. Sam attacks again, and during the struggle, Krieg rips off Sam's mask, revealing that he hasn't been fighting a child at all, but a creature of Halloween. Krieg reaches for his gun, but Sam bites into his leg like it's a giant Kit Kat bar. Krieg manages to grab the gun and shoots Sam in the face, sending the creature sliding ass first down the hallway. Krieg stumbles to the phone and tries to call the police, but he's too winded to speak before the cord is yanked from the wall. Then Krieg screams as he's stabbed in the foot by Sam's severed hand. Krieg falls, howling in pain as the tiny hand scurries down the hall. He tries to reload his shotgun but is out of shells. The hand returns, carrying Sam's mask. Sam puts his mask back on, reaches into his bag, and pulls out a big pumpkin-shaped lollipop. He takes a bite, creating a jagged edge, and starts slowly walking toward Krieg. Krieg sees his empty bottle of booze and grabs it off his side table, smashing it on the ground to make a makeshift weapon. Sam catches his hand and drives the sharp lollipop down toward Mr. Krieg's chest, but not to stab him. Instead, he pierces the candy bar that was flung off with the broken bottle. Sam accepts this as an offering and calmly walks out of the house. We then see that the photographs Krieg was burning earlier were school pictures of him with the bus kids when he was younger, revealing that he was the bus driver from 30 years ago. There's another knock. Krieg opens it to reveal the reanimated remains of the children from the bus, standing silently before him. They say, "Trick or treat," before finally taking their revenge on Mr. Krieg as the screen fades to black. It's worth noting that despite the violence, Sam is not just a slasher villain. Sam's tone is more mischievous than evil. He's enforcing the rules rather than simply killing just to kill. But he also isn't inflexible. If someone is capable of change, he leaves them alone. Sam even goes as far as providing Krieg with many jack-o'-lanterns and a costume of sorts, forcing him to bandage himself like a mummy after taking a major ass-whooping from the pint-sized creature. The last step is handing out candy, which Krieg unwittingly does, causing Sam to leave him alone. But other creatures of the night have a beef with Krieg as well. Overall, Trick or Treat is an awesome Halloween movie to just sit down with and soak in the classic Halloween vibe. I really struggled this year trying to find something to cover for Halloween. I know that sounds weird considering I cover horror year-round, but before I end this video, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watches, and a special thank you to the channel members. But that's all I have for you in this one. Take care, stay safe, and have a very happy Halloween.